It's time for the newsroom, joined by the usual suspects. Let's start from the extreme left, Patrick Gadara, the militant Patrick. Karibu sana. David Ohito.
Thank you very much.
Hitting it in the head. Martin Mutua. Promises. Tunangoja leo today.
We are on course, I
Clay Muganda. Karibu sana.
Welcome all. Hope you had a wonderful week so far, at least, I should say. Yeah. When I see Martin nodding, it seems to give me the impression of 50-50. Yeah. Why 50-50?
Well, not so good. You see, we are here. There are guys who are being attacked. I mean, Mombasa is still insecure. Guys are not living very well there. Mm-hmm. It should be cause for worry for everybody, because why should other people live peacefully and others live insecure? So, and we're in one country. Then you have other places. There are also other places in like in Baringo. There are people who are fighting hunger. There's drought in some of those areas, and those are issues that need to be well taken care of. So when you get those kinds of stories on your news desk, and you are here in the city, people are having all these kind of luxuries, it really traumatizes you. So that's why it's 50-50 for me.
Yeah, well, we also have to look beyond our borders to what is happening in the Middle East, in Gaza. I mean, it's quite depressing having 600 people are dead, essentially. I mean, a whole population being bombarded, you know, to smithereens, and the world essentially keeping quiet. So, I mean, that's another quite depressing story, I think.
We also have to look beyond our keyboards, you know. I mean,
the story, the militaries.
Yeah, our KDF and Mr. Chirchir. I mean, those are political forces hiding behind keyboards. Not good enough.
I think we have to have the question of passwords, and why the military officers need to be very careful with whatever they do with those accounts. It means a lot if for 2 days a KDF with intelligence officers, with people supposed to have gone to school, and then they compromise passwords and tell us they have been hacked. I mean, it's the biggest joke I've ever seen. And not for a very sensitive docket-like security matters. It can send a whole country into panic, and I think it is time to tell the military officers that we don't want to see those adverts of taking D- candidates to join the forces.
Look at the flip side. I mean, it could be, you know, a good thing for tender. You know, we can secure secured passwords. Look at the other side of it. You know,
very strong and secure passwords.
You know, we can tender for secure passwords. Provide.
I'd bid for that, actually.
There are very many techno-savvy guys in this town who are.
And James, it's not just about passwords. I have told particular senior military officers that there's a proxy account on Facebook purporting to be General Julius Karangi. Nothing has happened 6 months later. So, I mean, what kind of officers are we having in place? Are they really disciplined? I don't think so.
Yes, and I mean, let's start off with this issue of, you know, the cybersecurity, cybercrime. Just before we came in, we had a gentleman who from the ICT, a newly created body by President Uhuru Kenyatta as soon as he came into power, by presidential decree, through writing again and presidential seal and signed. You know, so it is a presidential.
Not a verbal one. This
not a verbal one. Yes, create the ICT authority. But question is, this government not only, you know, is projecting to be strong on, you know, online and, you know, this kind of engagement, digital government, but, you know, also has serious challenges, you know, just to try and control this, you know, what they say and how they say it, you know, on social networks. It appears that we don't know what ideal that we are, you know, we're taking through this government. I don't know if it's only me who's getting this sense, or we are actually on the right track.
Well, I think the government has become a victim of its own hype. It came in shouting it was all digital and stuff, and set up all these Twitter accounts and things, but they know how to run them, you know. And more importantly, they don't recognize that the technology is just a tool. they think it's an end in itself. So you look at what happened in Westgate, when government was tweeting, but essentially not giving you information or giving you contradictory information, and stuff. And I think you see a lot of the same things every time we have a crisis. And I think more the tools on social media. I'm one of those people. I don't really bemoan the KDF thing being hacked. Actually, I think it was the first time we actually saw some truth going on to that account when they were tweeting about what the issues actually were. That was the hackers doing it, because all along KDF info is used to retweet. That's all it does. Retweet something somebody else said or something government said. Put out propaganda, never actually address issues, which I assume perhaps is not the work of an army. But across all the accounts that the government holds, it's very rare to have actual cogent discussions with them. And they're more used to obscure, to obfuscate, than to actually enlighten and inform.
All right, so must we have these social media accounts if all we're going to see are retweets from probably different departments in the government? Must we have these Twitter accounts if they're going to be
those social media accounts can be useful, if they're actually utilized to inform, not to spread propaganda, not to, as you said, simply retweet. But the fact is that is all they're used to do. They don't use them essentially to inform the citizenry about what they're doing.
I think it was a lot. It was a lot of hype because the government at some point was opening Twitter accounts for every event and everything, every department. And I think there was a rush to have them verified. And it was like, when it's verified, we've gone a step. We have gone a step further than everybody else. One thing they don't know, that actually the CEO of Twitter, Dick Costolo, his account is not even verified. You see, so there was this rush about having everything verified to show how digital they are. But it's also a problem. It's a problem with more or less where we put the horse before the cart. So we had all these things, but we did not have personnel. We thought if you have very many Twitter followers, or if you tweet frequently, that makes you an expert already. And this happens across the board, not just in the government, because even when it comes to the media, we still don't have people who actually cover ICT or new media or social media properly. And that's why right now, as we speak, the mainstream media or lamestream media is actually being accused of spreading false information by calling this thing hacking. People who claim that they're in the know, they're saying that this is not hacking.
Sure.
But also this also speaks a lot about the media, in as much as we don't have specialists, probably journalists or people who actually know. I mean, it happens and everybody goes that the KDF account has been hacked. But some people who think like they know better than the mainstream media people, they say that is not hacking. I don't know what it is called. I think it's something smaller or cheaper than hacking.
Yeah.
So it speaks volumes about, the level of knowledge or the level of ignorance across different levels of governance and of the economy in this country. Because we keep on claiming that, we are a silicon savannah. And I sometimes you don't see much of that silicon savannah.
We don't need to be a silicon savannah, David, but you know much about this, so please.
I run some of the biggest social media accounts in East and Central Africa, and I'll tell them for free that I agree entirely with Clay. There's nothing like hacking there. The passwords were just compromised. There are better ways of securing your passwords. By simply engaging modern technologies, sending particular verification codes to 1 or 2 phone numbers, so that in the event that somebody has done what it did to KDF accounts, then somebody else responsible can check through their phones and simply block their accounts, and they are not functional. I am surprised that in a modern day society, KDF with several generals, with several purportedly well-trained IT officers, that we have this mess 2 days running. And I think for me that's the biggest. If you ask me, somebody should be sent home straight away. It should not be allowed to happen. Just over and above the password thing, I have seen an account, as I mentioned, purporting to be run by General Julius Karangi. and this has gone on, but what is posted cannot be associated in any way with our good general, and we have officers below him. I think this is the biggest joke. We must take these accounts properly and seriously as proper ways of communicating with the public and within the KDF itself. Unless that is done, we can run into mutiny in a very short time by simply sending the wrong codes or wrong words, wrong messages on this platform.
But
it's very dangerous.
The guest we had in studio just a few moments ago was saying that, hackers have different motives, and actually he is a security, or at least an information security expert.
Yeah?
Yes, he's the project manager at the ICT Authority. And he said, he actually called it hacking, and he said that hackers have different motives. He says some of them just want attention, and probably this one did get the attention because the media was all over the place saying the account had been hacked into, or the accounts had been hacked into. So if we're looking at a country where a social media platform can be compromised, what about the more critical information? What about the websites that have more critical information? This means that anyone can manipulate most of these platforms and do whatever they want.
Sometimes you tend to overstate things. Hacking a Twitter account is not the same thing as hacking a website. And I know the police website at one point was itself compromised. But I think we have to be careful about the extent of this. And here's my thing about our media. And again, we are going for the symbolism and ignoring the substance. I think the more important question would be, what are these accounts used for? Why are they there? Why are they useful? And actually the media, I think, should also be looking at itself and looking at its own accounts and how it runs its own accounts and how it uses them to report the news. Most of it is simply tweeting content that is in the newspaper. Not updating you constantly about things that are happening, explaining, having discussions. These are the sort of things that social media can be useful for. But I find that we don't really concentrate on that. We're too excited by the symbolism of it, by the technology of it. Actually, that's what it's about.
Not really. That these guys could not act. They have perhaps not even know an idea on how to contact the administrative persons to deal with this account. There are ways in which you can shut that account within the shortest time possible. It happens even in big media houses. You can imagine if KTN account was hacked today and somebody starts sending messages that can throw the whole country into panic. That would be the biggest disaster. So there must be one or two trusted persons who can often verify, is this info right? Is this really authentic? Unless we reach that stage. But I would say that they need a lot of training. They must be taken to school. I have seen Chirchi's mistakes long before the account was compromised. I think if KDF still wanted him there, let them take him back to school or send him to us for proper training for 2 weeks. He will be a better man.
Actually, I think basically normally when these days when KDF is recruiting, I think they also have specialized categories.
Sure.
They're supposed to recruit people in different fields. You have engineers, you have doctors, you have journalists, you have they're supposed also to have IT experts.
Sure.
So, but when you compromise a particular profession at the expense of the service, then this is the repercussion. So I hope and believe that they have learned their lesson and be able to ensure that their IT section has people who are trained in IT. Nothing else, not just rewarding guys for the sake of it, but you have people who are specialized in those particular fields so that you avoid this kind of scenario. And I think it will help a lot for the country because, believe you me, that can, if we allow that to continue, it can cause a lot of mess within the military, the discipline forces. Just imagine whatever kind of message of some sort of hate speech or whatever is sent out to the military, it can cause a lot of panic.
But what happens when the argument that we are hearing now from the ICT Authority, for instance, is that this is a global trend. It's not unique to Kenya. Cybercrime is not unique to Kenya. But must we follow the global trend
at the expense of I mean, the fact that things are happening elsewhere, it's not supposed to be the norm that now you have to accept. No.
Clay, what do you have to say to that? Clay.
I feel insulted by that ICT guy as a Kenyan, because that is insulting our sensibilities, because what is happening now, KDF account, they've not recovered it yet. They've not liberated it, as they would use their own terms. I mean, and then he comes here and says like, this is a global problem. I think this idea of Kenyans turning everything global problem, I don't know why Kenyans don't like being the best. Kenyans always like comparing themselves with the worst. I mean, yes, it's a global problem. Hunger is a global problem. Poverty is a global problem. Transport chaos is a global problem. We cannot keep on saying that this is a global problem, so we cannot solve it. Instead of him coming here to explain, he could have actually found a solution already.
Sure.
Yeah, because what is he doing at ICT? What is he there?
More than
is
60
he the
hours
director?
later.
What is he? Because what he's supposed to be doing is...
He's the project manager, information security.
What project is he running there if he cannot recover the things coming here to explain?
Liberate.
Liberate the KDF account.
The government has continued to insult the sensibilities of Kenyans for a very long time. And I think probably sometimes I tend to agree with Gadara is that the media is letting them get away with this. You see, I think these guys need to be told like this is not the way to do things, like that ICT authority, that ICT project manager guy.
Thank you. We would like to pick it up from there, what the media lets this government get away with. We need to take a short break. We'll be right back shortly.
All right. Guys, you're fired up already.
All right, you're watching the newsroom. Welcome back. Let's continue with this conversation, and let's take to the next issue that has dominated headlines for 2 or so months, the Lamu issue. So last week, the Inspector General of Police, David Kimayo, ordered a curfew, a dusk to dawn curfew, 6:30 to 6 in Lamu. Protested the next day by Majority Leader Aden Duale, who asked the Muslims in Lamu, please ignore. Both gentlemen found out that they're in deep problems, that they both reacted, outside their offices. So they sat down, came up with a good press statement that said that the curfew is still in order, but the Muslims
don't have to obey
that curfew. And it was reported as a fact.
Lord help us. We've told Kimayo for ages here, before you come out and issue a statement, consult. What is so difficult? What is so difficult to have consulted the people who from that area on such an issue? If you decide to take a stand and you think it is for the best interest of that particular area with regard to security, stand by it. Don't flip-flop. This is a security issue. You don't need to do 1 minute you're talking this way and the next minute you're taking another decision. You're sending a lot of conflicting messages, and you're confusing the public. And it's like a government talking at cross purposes. Why it wasn't? Duale doesn't even come from that area. He's from Mandera somewhere. I mean Garissa. Where are the local leaders from that area? Why have the local leaders from Lamu abdicated their roles in terms of what the needs of their people? So Duale is the area governor and MP from that area. So we understand the dynamics of Ramadan and all that, but when you have a serious issue of policy issue, those are matters that needs proper consultation before you get out to the public to talk. Because you issue a statement, then you eat humble pie. Now you're saying it is who does that? Does it apply to? Does not apply to Muslims. It applies to other people. So it means you're profiling other people as the ones who are now going to be subjected to this law. It is being discriminative.
So should we say that, for instance, when the Lamu governor did mention that, look here, what's happening in Lamu County is more than what you think. It has a lot to do with land, it has a lot to do with so many other issues that have been going on for some time. Do you think that maybe the government is not listening, and therefore maybe Aden Duale chose to become the mouthpiece for Lamu County?
The government does not listen to itself. This government does not listen to itself. I think what is the problem is they're believing there are too many noises, which is actually hype, and the too many voices speaking within the government that you don't know who to listen to. Because I want to agree with Martin here when he says like this was because of security, that's why the curfew was. It cited some very many laws and some very many acts and some very many caps to come up with this. Why he suspended it, nobody knows. And for Duale to go and speak on behalf of these people, actually, that's a question which we should have asked. We should actually ask why. Why does the government issue something, say one thing now and say a different thing, contradict the same thing the next minute? And I think this is what it comes down to one thing. We are not asking these people the right questions, or we are not bombarding them with questions all the time. We're not putting them to account. We try, but I don't know where the message gets lost, because I don't know whether it gets lost in all this, the noise of the government itself is making. Because all these issues, land and all that, has it been followed to the logical conclusion and we found like, okay, fine, this is the problem in Lamu? Have we done that yet?
Yes, there's a lot of good work which has gone in terms of
that bit I want to admit, yes, a lot of good work actually has been done by Sunday Standard, which I work for.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And I think those in government, the challenge I think with the security dockets Interior Ministry is that they have been unable to communicate effectively, efficiently during any crisis. Go to Westgate, go to Lamu, go to Mpeketoni. It's all been a mixed ball. They really don't know what to say at what time. But look at, if you profile statements of IG Kimayo from Westgate to date, I think he doesn't deserve to earn a coin from my taxes. The guy doesn't have any cogent info to put forward in terms of a crisis. Not even a primary one child can trust Kimayo when he speaks. And the same with Olelenku, same with nearly everybody else in the Interior Ministry docket. So these guys need to go back and find out what is really wrong with their communication. And by the way, today they cancelled a meeting in which they had called editors again to help them with strategic communication. But I say they are making basic primary one mistakes. These guys just need to go back to school to be told, in the event of a crisis, this is the way to frame your answers, this is the way to respond, not issuing statements which do not make sense or which you contradict barely 1 or 2 hours later. It means that there's something really wrong with the way even the operations are going on. So if you can't get the statement right, simple communication.
But are we helping them getting away with this thing?
Yes, I agree with Clay. We don't ask the hard questions. We have never had answers to Westgate. We've never had answers to Mpeketoni, and now Majengo in Mombasa.
And we don't know where our defense cabinet secretary is.
Yeah, true.
We don't know.
But
the last time she spoke, she was
let me just ask something.
Soap opera. This is not a soap opera. Where did she go after that soap opera?
Let me put something out here.
Yeah.
On this particular issue, and again, and this is where sometimes I really get disappointed by reporting. There are quite a number, quite pertinent, serious issues, are there. First, you've got the Inspector General of Police, instead of putting in a curfew, I think, having read the Public Order Act, that he is within his rights and within his powers to actually do it, But there are the questions of whether it is policy, whether he just woke up one day and declared a curfew. Did he think these things through? What were the implications, etc.? Then you've got the leader of government business, the leader of the majority in Parliament, tweeting, telling guys to ignore what the police have said. Which is tantamount to be inciting civil disobedience. The very same thing they were saying CORD was doing. Nobody mentions it. Nobody discusses it. And this is what I'm saying is there are issues involved here. There are serious issues about how we relate to a police, about how we relate to law and order. How government is actually tackling this issue of terrorism. Look at them deploying the KDF into Lamu or consulting Parliament. And then they come and tell us, oh no, you are in recess. Actually, I don't think Parliament was in recess.
That's whether Parliament is in recess or not.
They were supposed to have gone at least take a letter from the Speaker, I believe. If Parliament is in recess, there are measures the Constitution prescribes. Nobody comes and tells you that these were actually done, but because we don't ask. We don't go out there and ask, well, was this procedure actually followed? You know, when he declares a curfew, is in service of what? What's the strategy? What is the plan? Is it simply let's just have a curfew?
Value addition.
That's why I was saying when you have such kind of an issue, it means you have sat down, you've gotten the proper intelligence, and within the security ranks, this has been decided as the best solution for that particular area. So when you have somebody else contradicting you, actually that person should be in jail. Should have been arrested, put in jail for interfering with national security. Because the Inspector General of Police, who's supposed to be independent, they have taken a decision at a higher security level to be able to contain an insecurity in a particular area. When somebody else comes to interfere with that kind of a process, it means you are challenging the authority of the security apparatus. That is a person who should be behind bars and charged, so that the security apparatus can be let to do their job. Imagine if it was Ohito Gadara who would have posted or tweeted that ignore the Inspector General of Police. Would you be seated where you are at this particular point in time? So it doesn't help. This government must get it act together, and the Inspector General of Police must put his foot down. If he takes a decision, let him stick by it. If he doesn't want to look ridiculous,
but Martin, that's the whole thing I've been saying. I mean, there is. We've seen it happen with the politicians interfering with the work of what we supposedly assume are professionals in our security services. So when, for example, they are told, as we saw in the NSA report, that Al-Shabaab is planning attacks, and then President comes and declares actually it's not Al-Shabaab, it's local political networks, and now we are told by KDF it's actually Al-Shabaab. You know, you have to ask, you know, what are the rules within this thing we call security apparatus? You know, what are the roles of your political heads and of the people who are supposed to be the professionals running it? You know, and how can the guys who don't know anything about security, be the people overriding the people who know? You know, and the second thing here is I am quite uncomfortable with this thing of if you disagree with them, then you get arrested or get thrown in jail. There are ways and forums to disagree with them. I don't think this blanket thing called national security, which government these days uses essentially to hide what it is doing, to remove, I mean, when it says it can come in and grab, or they're asking for permission to come in and read your emails, to come in and read your SMSs, you know, without a court warrant. You know, in total disregard of what the Constitution says, which
that's not
privacy.
And yeah, and they say it's something called national security.
It's a threat.
And one of the reasons I find it quite scary is, I mean, you look at is it Today's Nation or where they talk of 51% of Kenyans being quite happy that the US is spying on our leaders and is spying on our citizens.
The nation.
You know, that we are among one of the top countries in Africa that's actually in favor of the US spying on us. You know, and I'm wondering, well, if we're excusing them, it's not a big step to us starting excusing our own government doing it. So we have to be rethinking all of this. You know, what is the importance of the privacy law? Why is it there? You know, and it's up to the press, I think, to start elucidating and articulating this issue and driving that discussion so that people understand it's not just a small thing of Duale tweeting
Kimayo.
something and Kimayo, that there are graver issues involved here and we need to articulate and ventilate them.
Right. And, you know, at the end of it all, as the media, what role do we play in an instance like this? Do we put out the law quite straight for, you know, Aden Duale, for instance, to read and say, look, I think I actually did something wrong? Or do we just let him get away with it because he said his faith comes before his work? At what role do we play as the media?
You see, that is his faith comes before his work. But, I mean, Mr. Kimayo also has work to do. And if Mr. Kimayo is supposed to be the professional here, and Mr. Kimayo says like, okay, fine, we have found out that you people are insecure between this time and this time, and we are doing this for you people. We are doing this so that we make this place secure. So what Adan Duale is actually, it's called Adan what? Duale or who? Yeah, Adan Duale is doing is that he's trying to tell these people that you don't know what you are doing. And actually, Mr. Kimayo is actually agreeing that, oh, actually, I don't know what I am doing. That's why I've agreed to do what? to suspend this, because I don't understand how they're going to sift, like to know, oh, you're a Muslim, you can go to the mosque, you're not a Muslim, stay back inside. And I think this is where now we have to, as a media, we need to tell, if this is the law, if the whole, because we've been crying about insecurity all the time. And it seems like the government wants to say, like, if a government, somebody who's pro-government says like, oh, there is insecurity, that one they agree. If the person says there is no insecurity, they agree. But if somebody else, because what I mean to say, can you imagine if it's an opposition MP who had said like Muslims should ignore that order? It could have been, there could have been outrage.
Yeah, but Claire, I mean, you guys are doing the very same thing that.
That's what I'm saying is this.
What I'm saying, the issue of.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Tweet and
what I'm saying, it needs to be.
Investigate the issues behind it.
It needs to be. What needs to be done is, if this is the law, then he has to be told that he has to follow the law. You see, Duale has to follow the law because Kimayo is the professional here. Kimayo has said this is the, he must be having reasons.
Clay, let's say that there's so many things which are happening at the same time. One, we've had police recruitment which has run into trouble.
Oh, okay. It has run into trouble.
Two, we have discord within the police force itself because of these vetting issues and related, do we have the right officers in the right places? Can they pass the test of integrity? And then we have the Lamu land question versus the LAPSET, one of the biggest projects, I think, in sub-Saharan Africa. That the price of land in that area, an acre was barely 100,000 shillings 3 years ago. Today, the same acre is 20 million shillings. I mean, there are critical issues which are arising. So this is a mixed bag. But when we have inappropriate statements which are ill-informed, like what Kimayo was saying, then it tells you how a bigger problem we have with the police force, right from the top to the constables. So I think it is time. We have so many amateurs in this Jubilee administration saying all manners of things and all manners of statements which are ill-informed. And I think this is a serious governance issue which should be looked in a better way. I would want to look at it that way. But the media equally has played ball, has failed to ask the right questions, has been sometimes muzzled or been forced to switch off live coverage of critical events which should discuss national issues.
Well,
Martin.
The issue that you mentioned about Duale saying that his faith comes before his work, I beg to differ with my very good friend Duale. I'm just giving him free advice. He needs to know he holds a very serious office. Is a very serious docket in terms of, he's the leader of government business, like I'd say, in parliament. He's sort of like the third in command in this government. So when one arm of government says one thing and he comes out to contradict, it says a lot. So if I were him, I would not even have issued that statement before.
Publicly, yeah.
He should have gone to Kimayo at that particular point in time and discussed with him, so that Kimayo could be the one coming out with that information, as opposed to him contradicting his other guy in parliament. I mean, it says a lot in terms of what happens within the same government, and it creates, like I said, it sends very bad signals on how this government is working at cross purposes. And more broadly, the issue of like what is happening at the coast, I also want to fault leaders at the coast, because I have not there used to be a coast parliamentary group. There are leaders in that area. None of them have come together to be able to come out and address this issue and offer solutions on the way forward, and tell this government that this is a problem we have at Mombasa, and we want it solved in this particular way. They also to blame in so far as what is happening. So I wish they could wake up to reality and be able to deal with this issue, because it concerns the economic development of that area, and it's the people in that area who are suffering more than even anybody else from outside there. So
I have to say, and I have to repeat, it is not about simply Duale v. Kimayo. It is about the issues, about how our entire security apparatus is run, how it is composed, how it is dealing with our issues. It is not just about the tweet, And in this regard, you might think of things like the IPOA report that came out was it last week or the week before, that says that the police are violating constitutional provisions in Salama Watch. It says that, but nobody delves what are these, and what is happening, and why does the police do this, Why are they so good at policing a rally and so bad at securing the people? How many of our journalists have recently been to Kasarani to check up on the guys whose constitutional rights are being violated? These are the things we hide under the rug. And then we just want to focus on the surface, on what just a tweet. It's Kimayo versus this government is embarrassed, they're looking bad. But we don't want to dig deeper and actually find what are the root causes for this. What is it that that tweet and that and Kimayo's statement is telling us about how our security services are run, about the policies we have to tackle terrorism, and stuff. And this is my faulting of the press. The press should be bringing up those issues, not hiding them under the carpet.
All right. You're watching Morning Express, and remember, you can participate by tweeting us at James Smart, at Joy Doreen Bira, or at KTN Kenya. And our panelists as well do have their respective Twitter handles. And you can also use our SMS line 22155. Now, I would like to get into the police recruitment process, but that is going to be after the break. And, at some point, actually a few days ago, the IG said that, according to him, he says the recruitment process was a success. And then later on, he says, look, if there was anything wrong with the process, then I think we have the time. We have enough time to redo the process. But that is going to be after the break. Just stay with us.
Next on The Entrepreneur.
From the coastal strip of Kenya, we are now in Malindi town, coming here to get inspiring and motivating stories from young entrepreneurs.
The restaurant business, I love it, but it's not for the faint-hearted.
People are never patient. People want to get into the business and start making millions, so making a lot of money at a go.
Business has its ups and downs, and if you don't have the passion, you won't make it.
My major breakthrough came after around 10 years.
Airtel is giving you 5 times your daily talk time as bonus to use across all networks. Dial *141# to shikisha story. Terms and conditions apply.
Marvel's biggest heroes are taking over. Catch brand new episodes of Hulk and the Agents of Smash. Scar attack! Gonna see Red? Able! Ultimate Spider-Man.
Okay, let's do this. It's time for me to step up and show the big boys what the Ultimate Spider-Man can do.
Avengers Assemble. Earth's mightiest heroes assembled and ready for action.
What's your ideal type of woman?
She has to have a bit of flesh, mkula kidogo. Would you be willing to donate your maybe kidney?
No way, no how.
No way.
Would you carry your girlfriend's handbag?
Umebeba mzigo wako, yani uzi ukabebea handbag wewe mwenyewe.
A spark that takes you somewhere new with every tune. So yeah, maybe it's more than just a little piece of gum.
Find it. See what unfolds.
All right, welcome back. You're watching the newsroom, and yes, with our usual bench of suspects.
Couch.
Gentlemen, finally, let's talk about the much hyped 10,000 recruitment of top of our great young men. So across the country, you would imagine that police is the ambition for everyone. You know, everyone wants to join the police. You know, from the coast to the lake. You know, from Mandera down to Lokeshogyo. You know, you'd imagine this is everyone. You know, all of us should leave what you're doing and join the top class, because I mean, everyone was out there. So the first thing that we want to, you know, can we get away from is that there's a big unemployment problem in this country, and those numbers were not because police is a lucrative job, but just because that young people, you know, and we profile people who had B+ and whatnot, who went there and couldn't get anything. You know, they've gone to campus, you know, university degrees and couldn't get jobs. But that's neither here nor there. Let's talk about what happened after that.
Well, I mean, it was a farce, to be honest. I think how the police dealt with it in terms of first, as you were saying before, Kimayo coming out saying it was a successful exercise, and then actually perhaps it is not. Now it's on the EACC is probing it, you know, and saying should be suspended, you know, and things. So it is a bit of a farce, but I don't think you should really run away from what you said at the beginning. I remember when KTN, was it this past week when you did the show on Tumishi Kwawote?
Yes.
You know, and you have to ask, you know, if that is the state of the conditions that our police are given, why doesn't everybody seem to want to dash into it? And you're right, we do have a huge unemployment problem, but also there is some power the police wield. You know, and there are routes to, whether it's to graft or to getting paid, that are there that people are following up. And we need to really, I think, interrogate all these issues. Second, if we are employing so many policemen and we can't take care of the ones we already have, you know, where are the issues there? You know, what's the problem there? Does it make sense? You know, would it perhaps be better to better equip the ones we have so that they can do a better job, other than spending money recruiting more guys who essentially will be stuck in police stations without vehicles, you know, who can't move around, who really will not provide the sort of security that we want, or the sort of services we want. So I would want to see a better articulation of these issues, you know, and not just sort of this superficial thing that we seem to keep getting from the press.
All right, David, this comment is, you know, running pictures of just what happened in that recruitment, and some of these things, you know, like I've seen a gentleman asking, you know, one of those recruits or someone who wants to join the force, you know, to open his mouth so that he can look at the dental formula. This fellow has no idea; he's not a dentist.
Really
What is he looking at?
Well, I think, let me begin by saying I miss those days, the 70s, when I was growing up as a young child. See a police officer in shorts, battees, clean boots all the time, you know, really disciplined officers. And they would investigate. If a hen was stolen in the backyard, they trace the last thief. I think 80% of our officers cannot even investigate a basic, you know,
loss of a pen in the newsroom.
Yes. I mean, that is how long we have sunk. It is so bad that today you have dozens of young people who desire to be good police officers, but they don't have a chance. And I wonder why in this modern day, we should still be allowing D-minus, the dumbest people in our society, to go to police force and the military services. I mean, and you expect them to compete and combat crime? It's impossible. How would a D-minus material compete with, high-end sophisticated thief who is IT savvy, who got an A?
But is it about their academic performance, or it's about their will to serve the country?
It's a combination of both. You are looking at issues which are, sophisticated crimes. They can only be investigated by well-informed, educated, motivated officers who have the right technologies in place, not clubs. And most of them do not even have email accounts. I mean, we must move police force to the next level. We must try and digitize even records. We must try and reform the force, pay them properly, retrain those who have basic education, and tell them that this is the best way to fight crime, and aid them with technological devices to make them deliver their
If I may just very quickly jump in, I know I'm a bit monopolizing things, but we have to look at the role of the police and the sort of things that we expect them to deliver. And the fact is, the police since colonial days have never been reformed. It's the very same institution we have. And in essence, I mean, having, for example, one of the policies that we have, which is barracking policemen, taking them away from communities and putting them in essentially their own station where they stay, away from the people that they're supposed to be policing with, to me, that doesn't make much sense. These are people who should be embedded in your communities. They come out from there, and things. And it's all goes back. These are policies that go back to the colonial era, when they needed to get policemen out of communities so that they don't serve those communities, they serve the government. Until today, we have maintained it that way. The police force is essentially set up to police you and me, not to serve us, is to watch over us and make sure we are towing the line. That's why we see them the other day rushing and arresting guys for crossing the road, even when the light is green that you should cross. What does the regard?
It's D for dumping, because the police force is being used as a dumping. You go there as a last resort. And actually, also, what he told a big story about unemployment, because some of those people are going there not because they actually want to serve the people or serve the country, as Doreen says, but it's because they want to look for a job. Over the weekend, I had something which actually I felt so bad. Sometimes I feel so bad for the police. I mean, it was a comedy program, and some school kids were asked, "Why do you want to be the police? Why would you want to become the police officer?" And one of the kids, I think, are maybe 10 or 8, said, "So that I can take bribes." You see, because that is how they've been actually schooled. That actually, as a police officer, this is your job. So I think also a lot of work needs to be done. Apart from reforming, the police need to come out. It needs to be a prestigious job, It needs to come out as a prestigious job. And I think also this is where maybe we need to come in, because did you heard what David was, the way David described the police officers? The dumbest of the society and all that. So, I think it also gives them a bad image, like, okay, you're a police officer, then you're not bright. I don't think it's also that they don't know how to investigate. I think it's because either they're overwhelmed or they're just not interested. They're not motivated enough. I was telling my brother the other day, like, you see, this vehicle has been here parked for 3 months. If at all Kenyan police officers found a body on this, they will actually tow this vehicle to a police station and say this is a traffic accident. You see, it's a traffic case. So here is a case where they go to a place, they find a body, and they just say all of a sudden, we are going to charge the person with murder. They don't know how the body ended up there. So what is happening is that they are not motivated enough. They just don't want. But if at all they put their mind to it, they can, because there have been cases where actually they've been ordered to investigate and they actually
but is this where the press comes in terms of articulating why it is that things are the way they are, and asking the question what actually needs to be done.
Martin, what are your thoughts to this?
My thought is that I've spoken about this issue over and over again. It's a combination of factors, both ways. You have to have, the police itself we, like I said, I know Gadara would beat me on this when I say that we were told of how the reforms, police reforms is supposed to come, but they ended up with the appointment of the Inspector General and his two deputies. And then now the vetting, which is up and down, which we've not seen much coming out of it, that is it. But the entire police reforms was supposed to address a whole cross section of issues, beginning with the retraining of the police force, with the motivation of the police force. You give them proper housing, give them proper health care, insurance, make them comfortable so that when a police officer leaves his or her house, they're sure that whatever service they're going to offer, they have nothing at the back of their mind to worry that if my family goes, something happens to my children, whether they'll get proper health care or I'll need to look for money to be able to fend for that. So it's a whole combination of factors. So if all these issues are supposed to be addressed in totality, you cannot take one and leave the other. If you are to move the police force to the next level, you have to look at the welfare of the police officers vis-a-vis the transformation in terms of the kind of reforms you're carrying out in the force. So all these must go hand in hand together. And in our budget, in terms of the internal security, I think it has the biggest budget. And if there is a deficiency in terms of whether there should be money poured into the security forces, that is something that the minister in charge of Interior can lobby Parliament to be able to get the funds that he required. And I believe Parliament would be more than willing to give him more than the money that he requires so that he can draw up the strategy in terms of taking the police to the next level. So, but as long as we continue to just whine about what the police are doing, and yet we are not addressing all these factors, we will still be just dancing around the totem pole.
Yeah, but aren't we playing a role as well in demonizing the police force? Because hardly, David called it a dumping ground. He actually said it's actually a recruitment for like the dumbest people we're having in the country. But when we as the media classify them as that, what do you expect the public to do? The public is going to roll with what the media is telling them. That
does not mean that there are officers who don't do a good job. There are a few very good officers excellently executing their work. But look at even investigations. A case goes to court, the prosecution is unable to execute, investigate basic. This car was stolen at this time. Who stole it? I mean, even the weakest of lawyers in town would win the case. How many cases are we losing? We must start looking at that. We've gone to the level where we need serious technological devices in terms of investigations. We need laboratories of modern day so that if you are tracing a rapist, you are able to profile him and give evidence of all that he has done over the recent past. Not possible today with the current force as it is constituted. The police force today, there's a lot of patronage, there's a lot of ethnicity, there are lots of godfatherism and godmotherism. There are people who have earned promotion which they did not deserve. There are so many who have been labeled corrupt, vetted, denied a chance, overnight again, they are good officers. Then we must ask ourselves, what is really happening? How did you find these millions in your account? And then they say, I don't know how they got into my account. Today, you are failing the vetting test. Tomorrow, you are passed on. So all these jokes from Kavuludis of vetting it's just a mess.
I think the media then needs to play a big role, like when it comes to that vetting, like when all these things. I think public vetting does not just we've reduced it to vetting in public. I think public vetting, it should be more than that, because as you point out, and from the way you point out that we're probably better investigators than the police officers themselves, is that when you mention this, like, okay, I don't know how the millions got into my account, then probably the media should go and investigate and actually come and tell him, like, okay, fine, this is how the millions got into your account. So I think the media needs to play a very big role when it comes to this.
I agree. And by the way, Martin, for once, I'm actually quite happy with what you said. I just wish that this was how it was reported. I actually wish this is how it was reported. That these are systemic issues. You know, it's not just about paying the police more or giving them, what's it called, insurance, or let's build them better
structural
houses.
changes we're talking about.
There are bigger issues at play, and there are reasons why the police are being kept the way they are, you know, and we need to interrogate those issues because it is a deliberate policy.
Right.
You know,
Gentlemen, finally,
not to give them money. You know?
Finally, gentlemen, we must talk about this. Must get this away. We're running out of time. Why are we allowing the president, the deputy, and the education cabinet secretary to go to rallies, you know, and speak on the roadsides, ordering principals to give certificates for primary schools? When all they need is to do a circular in the comfort and in the private of their office. Why are you not having that?
A circular has been done. Even that issue, again, one of the things I wanted to mention about it, you had, was it yesterday when National Union of Teachers was saying they need to discuss because schools are going broke, but they're being told the money they were expecting that should be paid, people don't have to pay it. You know, where are they going to get it? When are they going to get it?
Because we're getting a country into a circus, you know.
And this is the problem. Again, it's not the issues we're dealing with. They go and make a declaration, you know, whether it's by circular or whatever. It's the same, it's equivalent of Kimayu ordering his curfew. No thought is put into actually what will happen to the schools when they're actually not going to get this income. Are they going to be refunded? When are they going to be refunded?
They just need to pay the money. It's as simple as that.
My take is that we have so many irresponsible statements coming from our leaders. These are creditors who owe school money. If you are going to say schools should release certificates without a proper formula of recovering that money, what will you say about loans owed to banks and other financial institutions?
Or releasing money.
Or other. So we must really be careful where we're taking the country. And I said on day one, I mean, that was a populist statement that came from the deputy president. I mean, reminds me of the Kanu Hawk days when you just want to look popular for the sake of it, but you've not thought through your statements. It's a very dangerous precedent being set. And if they can't hold dialogue with teachers, then they must pay the teachers first before those certificates.
Another thing.
Martin said it came from the Senate, yeah?
No.
I mean, it is the law.
This is the law. Trust me, if any student, they can try this and they will win it. They go to school and demand for their certificates. If the head principal refuses and they is taken to court, that principal will be jailed. It is criminal. It is the law. It is only the way our leaders are trying to portray it in public. But it is the law. It was passed in parliament that you cannot withhold a certificate of somebody.
Martin, two things here. Martin, it is a law, but a law has consequences. When parliament sits and they're supposed to make laws and whatnot, they have consequences. They have money bills that they know that it's getting involved in. So we have 14 billion budget here that we're talking about. Who's paying for it? Because as Parliament makes law, Martin, you are the one who schooled me in this parliamentary issue.
Yes,
as Parliament makes law, they tell this education secretary, this is what you need to treasury, this money, this 14 billion debt. We can't say it's just law.
That's what I'm saying. If somebody goes with this to court, the court will, the business of the law, what law has been made, is for judiciary to interpret. If a student goes to right now who has a certificate that has been withheld and the principal denies him,
and Martin, I agree with that.
The person takes him to court.
Martin,
the principal will be
we have no problem
with
that.
Martin, I totally agree with you. It is the law, you know, but it's a pretty poor law. And what I think our government should be more concerned with is what's the effect of this law.
Sure.
You know, not just implementing it because it's there. You know, what's the effect? And if changes need to be done, proposing those changes. You know, going in and saying, okay, fine, before we do this, and all these laws come with the riders, and they give the CS, you know, what's called discretion when they actually implement them. You know, and there's a reason for this. You know, and we need to be thinking through, and this is why I go back to the press. The press needs to be thinking through what those
I totally
make those
agree.
final thoughts.
What should happen?
Make those final thoughts.
Yes, is probably this is where Kaimeni is failing. It should have brought all these people together, bring the NAT together, bring the head teachers together, and think through on how you're going to move this. You are going to implement this law because it is law. Don't just issue circulars. Circulars don't help. Bring the people together on a round table. Put your pride aside.
At the end of it was just 14 billion. We don't need to talk, we don't need dialogue.
How you can agree on
Clay,
this?
can we have your
Final thoughts, Clay.
There are two questions to this, and actually, yes, it could be the law, but there are two questions to this. Okay, fine. Now, the school, if they get this money, how have they been operating? That's one question nobody's answering. But also the other question is this. It is not just going to affect the schools alone, because these schools have been probably operating, they are people, they owe money. So it's going to, the effect is going to be also outside the school. Like there are business people who actually are owed this money. Yes, it is the law. I don't refuse. That one I agree. But actually I think they needed to look at all these ramifications also. Ramifications of all this. There are people, some of these schools have been operating maybe on credit and all that, and they probably keep on paying.
That.
Yeah. But now the businessmen out there who are going to lose. Having said that also, there's this idea that most of the people whose certificates are in school are poor people. They're people who actually could not pay that time. They've gone out, they've done business, they've made money, but they still don't want to pay. You see, so these are all the issues that need to be looked at.
Okay, your final thoughts, David, you've done spoken.
I think there must be comprehensive consultations on the way forward. We are setting a very precedent. People must pay the credits they owe. That is how we run an organized society. You must involve the teachers, because what it means, the flip side is that teachers will stop allowing anybody to sit for any exam before they have cleared their fees, in which case you knock out almost everybody else. How will they police that? So we do not need these populist statements and circulars crossing over. Let them sit down with teachers. These have been the perfect managers of our schools that even produced Kaimenis and Rutos. So they must go back to the drawing board, listen to the teachers. I stand with the teachers.
All right, and David, are you sure you don't want to apologize for calling the police recruits the dumbest people?
There is evidence. D-minus. Can I show you the advertisement? D-minus by D.
Oh, they do not accept guys with IGCSE certificates. They do not accept them.
At the end of the day, your hand or your life partly is in the hands of the police. So, and I know a very good number of police officers who do.
I too have very many good police
but
officers.
But you stream that down to very few officers.
Yeah, very few. And I can mention by names.
All right. When we return, we're going to be speaking weight loss and how that makes women feel. I don't know if any of you are having issues with weight.
Oh, actually, I want to add weight.
We'll give you all the junk food so that you can be able to add weight.
Martin, any issues with weight?
Not
David,
at all.
Patrick?
We try to do our best.
We do our best. We know what to do with the weight.
I'm running like what? You know, try and get fit.
Do you want to lose weight?
Actually, I want to do the
Stop
marathon
eating.
in November.
Masai Mara.
Nairobi one.
That's coming up shortly, and we're going to be speaking to some of the participants in the Ultimate Challenge. So be sure to share with us your experiences.